What's up, everyone? We are back for some more Mecha BREAK gameplay. This time going to be playing Hurricane, starting off on Longmen launch site here. And Hurricane got some nice buffs in the last patch. There was a pretty good amount of buffs and nerfs to go around, but Hurricane almost got away with just buffs. There was one slight nerf to balance it out. But while it doesn't really dramatically change Hurricane's overall game plan, it's felt pretty nice, and I actually spent the other day playing almost exclusively Hurricane, and I was able to grind out of champion rank up into legendary. So, based on that, I'd say I was feeling pretty good. I think like 80% of my games were Hurricane, and I won the majority of them since I was able to climb out of champion. So, I've been pretty happy with it, but I'm curious to hear what everyone else thinks, because I do feel like you do have some of the same weaknesses as before. And I don't know if it's the buffs that are making them easier to deal with, or if I just had some lucky matches, but I will go in and talk about my thoughts about those specifically. But before that, I did want to talk a little bit about Hurricane in general. So I liked Hurricane a lot in past betas, and they overall haven't changed much. I think the addition of more melees and people just learning how to play around them, though, did affect them quite negatively. I think a lot of people were placing them pretty low on their tier lists. I was someone who felt that Hurricane was quite a bit better than Inferno, but that was before I kind of learned how strong the canceling the booster kit tech on Inferno is, where if you cancel it basically right away, it goes on cooldown for 3 seconds, and the after images last for a little bit after that anyways, so you're almost untouchable, like maybe time for 1 or 2 melee hits in between those booster kit activations, and Hurricane doesn't have anything like that. You can quick cancel your splitter beams, and I guess your bubble, but that's about it. So you don't really have any high-tech thing. I say high-tech, it's just canceling ability, but you probably get what I mean. Nothing like that really to dramatically increase the strength of your abilities like that. It's just kind of placement of them and knowing when to use them and when to engage and when to stay out of combat. So because of that, opinions were kind of shifting, myself included, that people were really starting to feel like Hurricane was a throw pick, more so than Inferno, because at least Inferno had higher damage than Hurricane and actually better survivability, even though it didn't really protect its teammates as well. And Hurricane was still okay if left ignored. I mean, its abilities and damage wasn't necessarily bad, and it was good playing around other tanky guys, but if people knew to focus you, there wasn't really a whole lot you could do about that. You just kind of got dove by some melees and you'd probably die, and if they just kept doing that, there wasn't really time for you to really get a lot of value out of any part of your kit. And because of that, that's why people were feeling that Hurricane was pretty low. And despite the buffs, I feel like that hasn't really changed, but there is one thing in particular that does make the diving Hurricane to kill them right away part a lot more difficult. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But let's get into Hurricane's actual abilities. So your main weapon is a charged beam blaster. Kind of similar to Inferno. I mean, you only have 1 instead of 2, but it does, instead of just doing a single hit, like Inferno's does, at least the charger, Inferno also has a shotgun blast, it hits and then has like a lingering kind of energy static explosion around it that does additional damage. And that does quite a bit of damage. Almost, I think actually more than the base hit, if I did the math right. But it is a strong attack, but you do have to have someone stay around a little bit to get hit by it, and it can be fired pretty quickly, and you don't have as much problems as Inferno ammo-wise, although that is one of the nerfs that Hurricane got going into the patch regarding the ammo. But the downside to it compared to Inferno is that it doesn't fire quite as fast as a slower projectile. Inferno is much better at like tracking flyers, especially if you're really good at manually aiming. You can even hit them with that, while Hurricane does have travel time. And also it has no piercing of fluid armor, and that actually makes Hurricane one of the few strikers in the entire cast that doesn't have any sort of piercing damage. Even, you know, someone like Panaka, whose energy attacks also don't pierce fluid armor. They have the wall, which isn't always going to be usable, but it's something to pierce through. Of course, Lumine also can pierce anyone with a melee. Inferno, Skyraider, both the snipers, so it's a pretty small subset, but like Falcon, Hurricane, Tricera, Stego, I think that might be the only ones, unless I'm forgetting someone. Everyone else has some sort of piercing. I think Serenith has some piercing on the shot. Actually, I have to go back and check that again. I haven't played Serenith too much recently. So because of that, while it does do good damage, it does mean you're always going to have to get through those fluid armor first, which, depending on your team comp, there might not be a lot of people helping you. The melees might just be bypassing it, so your damage is going to be somewhat meaningless until you can get through it if you're the only one even having to deal with that in the first place. But in general, I do like the weapon, and I like that it's harder to run out of ammo compared to Inferno, because that's one of the things I really don't like about Inferno that much. But that is your only main fire. Your secondary is the decoy drone, which you put up a shield like Elysian or Panther. They can parry, but it has a short time you can hold it out, probably as long as the parry window lasts. You know, with Elysian and Panther, when you pull the shield out, it has a window where it can parry, and then if you keep it out for longer after that, it'll just block damage and won't parry anymore. So you have to drop it and then bring it back up again. But unlike them, since the ability also deploys a decoy shield drone that floats near you, it has a ammo count. So you only able to hold it up for a little bit, and it deploys that drone, and you can only do 2 charges of that stored, so you have to wait for it to recharge. So that means you don't have a parry on demand quite as easily as those two, because you do have those charges. If you pop both your charges trying to parry someone and they wait it out, or they manage to slip in between those, like doing a downward strike, things like that, then you won't have the ability to bring up your shield to parry for a little bit, and that can be a pretty big downside to it. But of course, the decoy does pop up, is very useful too, and that is the thing that got the biggest buff in the patch for Hurricane. So before, the decoys, you could just destroy them and they'd pull your targeting, and that kind of sucked. But aside from that, they're pretty easy to kill. It's, even for melee, is usually 1 or 2 melee attacks to break through it. But they changed them now. Now if a melee attack collides with the decoy, it will pop and stun them for 1.6 seconds, which is a pretty good stun. I think it's comparable to Aquila's stun. And while you don't have huge punish damage, since you're just mainly going to be doing your charged blaster, you can use the splitter beams as well, but those take a bit to activate, so unless you were kind of predicting they were going to get stunned by that, they're probably not going to be active in time. But it's still nice. It gives you some time to get some distance. If you're inside a Welkin box and the Welkin hits the shield and gets stunned, then you have more time to wait for the shield to run out to get away. It also, if he activated his defensive field preemptively to try and block your energy damage while he's going after you, if he gets stunned, the defense field gets canceled, and it goes on full cooldown. It's not like if you manually cancel it and he gets some of his cooldown back, it goes on full cooldown. So that's pretty nice. They might actually, Welkins might actually stop activating their defense field if they can avoid it when they're diving Hurricane for that reason, because you could just lose the whole cooldown when you may not have actually needed it if you were able to get Hurricane quick enough. But that is a pretty nice change there. And I think in general that is nice. We'll see if people start learning how to play around the decoys better. I know I've gone against some Panthers. I have to learn as well, too, because my instinct when I put my shield up, because I'm being attacked by melee or something, is to back up. And when you're backing up, they can kind of just walk past your decoy shield, and then it's like it's not even there. So you kind of have to fight that urge to just run away while you're dropping the decoys and maybe actually go towards them. Because there have been some times where I get hit by a Panther with his lance, and he pushes us into one of my decoy shields, and then the stun happens. And while he still gets some damage, he doesn't get the full damage, which is really nice. So I do think that is nice. We'll see as people learn more to play around it. But for now, I think it's a pretty nice buff. And I've definitely been appreciating it, helping to get those melee guys off of me. And then your last 2 abilities are the deployable energy drones, which do their little beam attack in kind of an area if people pass near them. It's not incredible damage, but it's fairly consistent, as long as they're not getting popped by Welkin's jamming pulse. And you can set up multiple of them around a point, and they just keep ticking away. So I like that ability a lot. I feel like if you actually just actively watch it doing things, the damage seems low, but I don't know. When I've been on the receiving end, I feel like when I keep getting hit by them in the middle of a fight, it makes me want to leave the area. So that makes Hurricane pretty effective with playing over objectives with those, as long as they're not getting quickly dismissed by a Welkin. And then the final ability, very similar to Inferno's splitter beams. It fires out the multiple of beams at once, which focus on different targets, but if you get up close, you can kind of shotgun someone down like a Tricera and deal extra damage. And those do good damage, and unlike Inferno, since he has his booster kits, which he can activate to give him stagger immunity and extra energy and movement, stuff like that, Hurricane instead has that stagger immunity tied to the splitters, which is nice. It means you don't immediately get knocked out of it, because that can happen as Inferno sometimes. If you don't pop booster kit at the same time, you get hit as soon as you activate those, and it gets canceled. So you're not going to get canceled out of them easily, which is nice, but they're not really great for using defensively when you're getting dove, because it kind of limits your turning and your movement and things like that. But if they're low enough, you might be able to burst them down with the damage, and they won't be able to melee you out of it, which is nice. So sometimes that's useful. Personally, I don't find that part of it useful defensively. It's just more kind of a nice quality of life thing if I'm getting attacked, so I don't get knocked out of it. But yeah, that is the kit. How it is, obviously the decoy drones being the big buff, but they also did a couple other things for Hurricane. They did increase the damage of your main blaster, both on the fully charged shot and the lingering energy cloud static effect that I talked about before. Both those got their damage increased, and it comes out to about a 5k damage increase overall, which is pretty nice. That's I always think Hurricane's damage isn't bad, but you're kind of lacking in burst. So having a bit more of that is definitely going to be nice. Even right there, see that Skyraider? I think just the charge shot hit him because he flew away so fast. So that is missing out on quite a bit of your damage. But against these Triceras and Stegos, it's going to be a lot more useful. And that is that was one thing I've definitely appreciated when I was on my ranked grind with Hurricane, is how much better the matchup into the turret guys was. And I know they got some nerfs too, but I think even before, Hurricane wasn't bad against that. But of course, more damage on the gun is definitely appreciated. And then other than that, you also got, I guess I skipped over, I didn't even talk about the first ability, the defense field drone. It's kind of like a Welkin box, but worse in every way, is your little bubble. It's smaller. Before, you could deploy it on yourself, but now they gave you the ability kind of like a Panaka bubble, where if you're targeting someone, you can put it on them. It won't follow them like a Panaka bubble, and since it's so small, to be perfectly honest, I haven't gotten a ton of use out of putting on allies, mainly just when I have like a Stego or a Tricera, and I can pop it on them and they're sitting still. And it's okay. I don't really understand exactly how it functions, because it says it blocks like long-range damage, so you'd think bullets and lasers and all that, like Welkin's box, but sniper shots seem to go through it, because I know I've popped it on objectives and then I just get shot by like a Skyraider or Aquila and it doesn't help me at all. So I don't know exactly what the properties are for it, but it does seem weaker than other shields. But it's pretty quick to deploy and undeploy. That's one thing, though, that I forget now, because I sometimes accidentally put it on someone else. I'm not even realizing it's deployed. I thought maybe I accidentally recalled it or got popped immediately. So it's sitting out there, and then I have to recall it like a Panaka bubble that I put on the wrong person. And speaking of that, that is the problem now, since it has... I talked about it in the Panaka video, where when you're accidentally looking at an ally, when you're trying to put a bubble on yourself, that does happen now. So in some ways, it almost feels like a bit of a nerf, but... I'm sure other people will find more use of that, but overall, I think that's Hurricane's weakest ability, is the defense field drone. Because all of your kit is like drones, you're still fairly weak to Welkin, but I do think the decoy drone change did help a bit. But I think Hurricane does well on payload. I think with the nerfs to the turret guys and with the buffs to Hurricane, it can take the place of one of them. As you see right here, I think we've got Tricera on our team, and then me, while they've got the traditional Tricera Stego. And so far, it's working pretty good. I've been trying to play off my Tricera, because while you are an ultra heavy, Hurricane isn't really like a main frontline tank. You're kind of slightly behind the front line, and I don't like playing Hurricane if I don't have other like heavies on the team. I've tried that. If it's just a bunch of small fries, it's really easy for me to get dove, because, you know, my Welkin Skyraider are really going to be with me. Maybe the Luminator Panaka are going to try and heal me, but they're not really going to be taking the brunt of the aggro. And when you're forced into that full frontline position, I think that's where Hurricane starts to run into trouble. And right here, yeah, there's a lot of action going on at that point. I think my Tricera may have gone down first, or maybe had to move away from the point, but when everyone can focus you like that, that's when your defensive options really start to fall apart, and even those stuns on the decoy drones can't help you out too much there. It looks like we are still ahead in the cart push, so that's okay. But yeah, definitely appreciating the extra energy damage that we have on the main fire now, helping me burn through this Stego pretty quickly. I'm someone who gets really discouraged when there's a Tricera in the game and no one can deal with them, so that's, like I said, that's why I was kind of enjoying playing Hurricane in this grind to Legendary rank, because I have all that pretty good damage against stationary targets with the Charge Blaster and the Splitter Beams, even throwing down the damaged drones as well. And you just kind of have to survive against Welkin and Panther. I think those are probably your worst two matchups. Inferno's not great either, because Booster Kit on Inferno does replenish some of your fluid armor as well. And like I said, Hurricane has no option to pierce fluid armor, so any damage you deal to him, he's probably just going to Booster Kit, dance away for a little bit, come back, and have most of it recharge, and then you're going to hit him again. He's going to pop Booster Kit over and over again, so you need help with that. And that is kind of Hurricane in general. I think your 1v1s are not the best. You really are a team player striker. And that was true before, it's true after the buff, but I think things are a little bit easier for him after that, so we'll see how that continues as people kind of adjust to the buff changes. But yeah, 2 payload maps. I think that's Hurricane's best mode. I think you can do pretty good on point capture. I did have some good point capture games on Crab Single. I thought about showing those off instead, but I don't know. The good Hurricane games on those maps, I feel like you kind of just go to a point and you stay there and you defend it forever. And you're good at your job as long as the whole team doesn't dive you, but it's not super exciting. So I feel like the payload ones are where I'm more in the action constantly. So we got to show off 2 of those. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Hurricane a lot. I don't know if it really is the buffs, or maybe I just gave up on them too early. Maybe I was discouraged by everyone talking about Hurricane was so bad and such a throw pick. But and I had a fair amount of bad Hurricane teammates, which helped reinforce that idea. And I don't know if it was entirely their fault. I want to be fair to them, but yeah, so far I've been liking it after the buffs. I think it is a good change. I think the stun, it makes it a little bit less free for melee to come after you. And if your team is playing on you, they can get some good damage off those stuns as well. So overall, I'm kind of liking the new patch. I haven't had a chance to try out all of the other guys yet, so I'll have to see how the buffs and nerfs feel across the field. I know Welkin got hit by a nerf. I did play a little bit of Welkin, and it didn't feel too noticeably bad. But going against him as Hurricane, I felt like I could kind of hold my own a little bit more than before, because they didn't have as much defense field active time and a little bit less damage on their melees. But yeah, I know Aquila and both the turret guys got hit probably the hardest. At least they got the most nerfs. I don't know if they were necessarily super severe, but those are the ones that I'll have to see how they feel after all this. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Have you tried out new Hurricane much at all? How are you feeling about the other buffs and nerfs? I want to know how you guys feel, because so far I'm kind of liking it. But that is going to be it for this time. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.